It's another interesting edition of The Fourth Estate with Adeola. On this podcast today, I promised you the last time that I'm going to bring another special guest on this program. And here we are again today. You'll be wondering what The Fourth Estate is about. It's about journalism, journalists, the professionals, the practitioners. Today, I have with me a special guest who has been on this journey for a long time. Let's get to hear him. Can we meet you?
Shamsideen Babatunde Akiemi is the name. I'm a deputy director and the head of the News and Current Affairs Department, Lagos Traffic Radio.
That's very, very, very intimidating, if I may say.
Exactly. It takes a long time to get to that position, but I'm grateful.
Thank God. So welcome to this podcast. Like I always tell people that we journalists, we care about the people. We make the government accountable to the people. And we do, our role basically is that of a watchdog.
Definitely.
But who watches over us too?
Okay.
That's why we're having this conversation. So we make it as interesting as possible. So Mr. Akiemi, how long have you been in this profession?
Actually, by July this year, I will be exactly 33 years in service in the profession of journalism. It's actually not a profession I deliberately ventured into. It was something I did not expect, but it has been a very successful journey, taking me to a lot of places that I never thought I would be. I've been able to meet a lot of important people, and I have no regret being in the profession. I have no regret being in the profession.
Wow, that is a long time. 33 years, good years on the job.
Exactly.
So what really motivated you into, journalism?
Just like I said, it's not something I planned actually. And like a young man that was looking for a job, I just got to find myself in the profession, and this is what as time goes on, I've just developed a great interest in it. I came in more like a greenhorn. I had no training. I was trained on the job. I started as a level 4 officer, and I grew from there to the present position of a deputy director. I went through a lot of training. Academically now, I have a first degree and a second degree as well. All I did during my time as a journalist, been to a lot of places. I was a one-time. In fact, I've covered almost every aspect of journalism. I've been a defense correspondent. I've been in sports. I've been in general beats and every other thing. All these things bring a lot of people closer to us and takes us closer to a lot of people too. We've been everywhere we should be, and we want to thank God for what journalism has done to us today.
I know you've, spent a lot of time on this job, and you're still here to the glory of God. But in the course of doing this job, do you have challenges at all?
Of course, definitely there are challenges. There are times they embarrass you and you start to look at yourself and say, wow. Sometimes you have had times to run for my life, go for a coverage, and you had this violence and stuff like that. There are challenges, but if you are really committed to the job, and some of these things you overlook and you want to put your mind into achieving what you want to achieve. Journalism is one of the high-risk jobs. You definitely, and you are expected to bring stories. When they send you out to events, no matter how violent and stuff that happens there, no matter what embarrassment, that is even a common thing. But, the society sometimes doesn't value what we do. Though they expect us to bring information to them. But how long or how difficult it is for us to get the information is not their business. And sometimes they're embarrassing in the course of doing your job. All this you have to take in and ensure that information you get, no matter how difficult it is, because your bosses in the office will not take a no for an answer.
So what you're telling us is, as sweet as journalism is, it's not an easy task.
No, it's not. It takes a lot of commitment and doggedness to be a journalist. You are expected to go beyond your brief sometimes to bring in what is expected of you. So journalism, for those young ones now aspiring to be journalists, aspiring to be broadcasters and stuff like that, they should have what we call shock absorber sometimes, because it's not all what you expect that you see, and that might discourage you. But I wouldn't want to do that, because journalism is also about courage, about efficiency, about what have you. So wanting to venture into it, you must be strong-hearted and committed to the job. I think it's the commitment that takes us far on the job.
I know you've had a lot of challenges, like you said. Can you share one or two experiences with us?
Yeah, of course. There was a time I was actually covering the Navy. I enjoy covering the Navy. They were a very good force. And there was this regimented dinner. And the regimented dinner is like, well, the chairman of the dinner, it's all military affair actually, but because we are correspondent, we are also allowed to come in. And there are other invited guests too. But one major thing is that when the chairman of the occasion finishes eating, you all drop whatever you drop. Because when you sit down, you are not expected to stand up until the chairman stands up. And if he doesn't stand up, that's a problem for you. And this time around, I was part of the dinner and I was like, had to use the toilet. That was a serious thing.
That's so serious.
Initially, I was trying to curtail and pretend like nothing happened, but when it got to a stage, I could not hold it. I had to talk to a commodore, and the commodore was the chief, more like a chief press officer. I've held this thing, I cannot hold it.
Wow.
The man said, no, the major general is still sitting down. He's the chairman. If he doesn't get up, you don't get up. I said, we have to look for a way and stuff like that, because I'm really tight. And he was now going around and was talking to people, and by this time I was really at ease. But fortunately for me, I was able to get some people to actually smuggle me out of the dinner hall, and that was when I find it very
Awkward.
No, not really awkward. That's too stringent, because they expect you to follow a regiment that the military follows when they are at their dinner, and it was strange to me. That was the first one I actually attended. It was strange to me, like, so if I want to go to and use the toilet now, we have to wait. And after that, when next I was going for that event, I try to make sure I don't eat to system and stuff like that. So regimented dinner is one of those things in the military circle I find very difficult. This is one of it. I have many examples. Yeah, and there was a time I also went to cover a political rally, and I was caught in the midst of gunfire and stuff. And those are some of the risks we talk about. I was lucky to escape unhurt that day, but it actually frightened me.
Wow. So that's a lot of price to pay, especially when you're trying to, bring information to the people.
Exactly.
And
you go out of our way a lot of times to ensure we bring information, because that's our first call. That's our first call. And it's so bad that in spite of all this stuff, all these sacrifices, journalists are poorly paid, easily embarrassed, harassed and stuff like that. Sometimes when some unlucky reporters do stories, you find security agents looking for them, and sometimes some of them are had to face assassins for information they give, honest information they give. So these are some of the hazards we go through, and in spite of that, we are not well remunerated. And most of all these newspaper houses and broadcast houses do not have insurance cover for their journalists, which is very bad. A lot of journalists have lost their lives in the course of the job, and their family were not treated as they should be. And this is what we are calling for, such change, that we allow young upcoming ones to imbibe the profession. And so we hope things will change. Those in charge, we hope they will carry on this campaign and make the profession actually a profession, a very lovely one, a very beneficial one to everyone that is aspiring to be a journalist.
So if there's another chance, if there's something like that coming back to the world, will you still pick the profession?
You know one thing journalism does to you is that it opens door for you. Sometimes you find yourself in the midst of people and you were like, am I here? Like when I was covering, it takes me to a lot. When I was covering the defense, particularly the Navy, I've been to Agbami. Agbami is like the Gulf of Guinea. I have rowed in the shopper. I've been on our flagship, the NNS Aradu, that's our flagship, the frigate, with a lot of people, senators. We were all riding on the frigate together. Those are things I would not have imagined if I was not a journalist in the first place. So all this stuff has actually brought us very closer to people that we might not have thought we will ever go close to, or where we might not have thought to go to. So I think I don't have regret, but of course I've just stated that they need to respect us more. They need to appreciate what we do. They do not just see us as those press boys. It's a profession that has taken a lot of us. Just like I said, I have a second degree, and a lot of there are journalists that are even PhD holders too. But they are journalists, so we should also be looked on and respected as well. So definitely, I have no regrets because I've actually enjoyed the job.
So, what's your advice for aspiring journalists?
Yes, just like I said, it has to be, first you have to have the interest, and you don't go in for the money, because there is no lot of money involved in journalism except you want to start blackmailing people. But if you are in for the job, really, it's just if you have the interest, you enjoy what you do, you will enjoy journalism. It's a job you want to wake up to every morning and do. So I will advise that first, you do not look out for money. Of course, it will come with dedication to your job and stuff like that, but that shouldn't be your core objective of being a journalist. I think the first objective is to want to disseminate information. Truth should always be your focus. Truth should always be your focus. Then when you imbibe these traits, the sky is just the beginning for you.
Wow. This is a very interesting podcast today because I have a very special person with me, and that is Mr. Babatunde Akinyemi, who has been on this profession for almost 33 years. That's quite intimidating. So we thank you so much for being on this podcast today. And what we are taking away from what he has said, and it seems this is always consistent with our guests on this program, it's about interest. You have to be consistent. This profession takes you to where you don't even think you would be. That's how it's going to be today on this edition, till I bring you another special guest. Next time, I remain Adeola.